Yes, yes, yes. It is the Cast Worthy podcast, and we are back. I am Big Steve, aka Last of Dying Breed, on the X Machine, formerly known as Twitter, joined today by the VP of Research, a self proclaimed king, much like LeBron said it before. King of Research, that is. And it's St. Patrick's Day. Green Day,
Really?
green beer. Yeah, today's St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Yep.
No clue.
Sunday, March 17th. Beginning of spring break in most places, especially here in Florida. We've got a fun-filled week of things to do. Uh, what's up with you?
Not much, man. Just chilling. Ready to go back at it again this week.
Yep. New week. I'm off this week, so I am excited. I got vacation this week. Took it off to kind of just spend time with the kid during spring break.
Yeah.
Was planning to do some stuff, but decided otherwise. Gonna go out to the beach. Probably spend a couple of days out there, but like nothing big. No big travel or anything like that. Kind of staying local. Any
Yeah.
plans for spring break?
Not for us, man. We're just chilling, you know. I mean, I remember those days or that time when you try to either take off or do a work from home or something like that during spring break, but those days are long since past.
Yeah, I guess. TJ's what you said, a junior, right? Junior,
Yeah,
senior,
he's a
junior,
senior now. He's 17.
senior. Okay.
It's
Yeah, so he probably gonna be out and about, waking up late, eating good, going bowling,
pretty
you know,
much.
all that fun stuff you do when you're a senior. He ain't trying to do no spring break vacations with his with his
Right.
peoples. Um yeah, man. Well, it's all right. The weather's not supposed to be great except for the next couple of days, and then it's supposed to cool off I think Tuesday here. So cool for us is 60 something. So it's not too horrible.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, man, been a pretty slow week for me this past week. Nothing too much, kind of load leading up to vacation time. Luckily, usually it's chaos when you're about to take time off. You got to catch up on a bunch of stuff, but kind of knew it was coming, so took care of a lot of things I had to get done at work, around the house, all that fun stuff. Um, but it's been an interesting week to say the least, at least from the football standpoint. NFL free agency kind of hit full swing this week. Went from 0 to 100. A lot of big names moving to different places, kind of like a passing of the guard. As I look at some of the names that we're surprised by, or things like that, a lot of them are older guys. There's a handful that that are still young that'll make some changes, and we'll go through it. Specifically like Saquon and Justin Fields, right? But a lot of the other guys have been around for a bit. So, how do you feel about your Dolphins before we get into the moves?
For the Dolphins, I've actually been surprised that I like this free agency. Um, you know that I posted in the chat at the start of free agency that I was upset with what the Dolphins were doing from what I was hearing from the media. We were doing, according to Cameron Wolf from NFL Network, he said that Miami was doing what he called a soft reset, meaning, they were going to still be competitive this year, but we're essentially like trying to get the books right with the salary cap because we
Yep.
entered the season $40 million over the cap.
Ooh.
So they were going to try to get the cap situation right, and then bring in guys who are like good enough, and then set themselves up to do moves in 2025. And I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't like that at all. Um, Looking at some of the guys that we brought in, like John Smith at tight end and like Fuller at cornerback, I really like those moves. And I guess I don't. It could be the fan in me, I don't know. the bias, but I like the moves that we've made, and I can see the setup for 2025. But what worries me still is that so much has to go right for the play they're trying to make in 2025 to work out. So, like as an example, next year 2025 we have all seven of our draft picks, plus we have an additional fifth and an additional seven, so we got nine. For the compensatory picks, we're projected to get a compensatory third for Christian Wilkins and a compensatory third for Robert Hunt, the offensive lineman that we lost to Carolina, and then Deshaun Elliott, who is a safety that we lost. We're projected to get a compensatory seventh for him. So we're projected to get about 3 to 4 compensatory picks. The max you can get is 4. So we could go into next year's draft uh, uh, um, with 13 picks and have a first, a second, three threes, and two fifths. So plus $70 million in cap space for 2025. So like I said, I can see the setup, but a lot has to go right.
Yeah, no doubt. Even though people know and it's like more present and available to individuals about the salary cap and stuff, it still never feels good watching your team do nothing. You know what I mean? It's like, do something. Like, as a Cowboys fan, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I know that we got to pay a bunch of people. I know that we really don't have the money, but Jerry Jones does that, right? Jerry Jones, went on out into the media and was like, "Oh, I'm ready to go all in. I'm ready to make big moves, for next year, right?" And unfortunately, it's been a fairly slow, actually not fairly slow. It's been a dead stop in free agency. With not only have we not really signed anybody, I think we only had one signing, and it turned out to be a guy who decided not to go somewhere else, who had planned to sign originally somewhere else. But we've also lost a boatload of our guys. Many of them went to the competitor in Washington. Tyler Biadasz, which was our starting center, went to Washington. Dorrance Armstrong, which is one of our edge rushers, went to Washington. Um, and Tony Pollard left. He went to Tennessee. So there's people that are just gone, right? Tyron Smith went to the Jets yesterday. We saw that news. So it's not like we're losing, third stringers and stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. Tyron Smith, like we talked about, injury prone. This guy hasn't played more than 6 games, you said, something like that, since 2019. Or
Yeah, he
I
hasn't
think,
played a full season since 2015.
yeah, full season since 2015. There's some bittersweet movements that have taken place. But on the flip side, we haven't done anything, right? Like we brought in Eric Kendricks, which was, I mean, I like him. He's a linebacker, good addition. But I think he's, I don't know that he's in his prime either. So people are excited, but it's only because we ain't do shit else. So,
Yeah,
but
it's. I agree with you, man. It's watching your team not do anything. That was kind of like me on day one of free agency. I'm sitting there like, what's happening, because teams have to be under the salary cap by the start of the new league year, which was on Wednesday. And
right,
on the first day of the tampering period, um, you normally start seeing teams like restructure deals, release guys, etc., to start getting right with the cap. And on that first day, we hadn't done anything, which means like, how are we going to start agreeing to terms with players when we haven't made the moves to create any cap space? And so that first day, all we did was sign Johnu Smith, the tight end, and that was it. And
yeah,
then even though we had signed him, it was like, where's this money coming from? Because they still haven't fixed the cap, which means, when it's time to sign him on Wednesday, we're not going to be able to because we don't got no money. And then the following day is when they started to like get right with the cap, and they released Jerome Baker, started restructuring guys deals and things like that, doing uh, uh contract conversions and those kind of things like that to create cap space. And then all of a sudden, we went from being, I think we still had like 20 something million over the cap to being
Mhm.
like 5 million under. So, and then, things started happening.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys had a pretty good signing, I thought, in, was it Kendall Fuller you guys brought in? Am I right?
Yep, Kendall Fuller, the DB from the Commanders, brought him
From
in.
Washington. Yep.
2 years, $16 million deal. So I like that deal a lot. I didn't think he was somebody that we could get. I mean, granted, he's 29, 30, something like that. He's on the older side, and most of the
I know.
guys that we've brought in are on the older side. But you know, if you're trying to just get right for a year to make a big splash in 2025, then those are the kind of moves you make. A little bit older veteran guys, 1 year deals. Some of them are 2 year deals that they can walk away after 1 year. So we'll see.
Right. And you guys have some young guys that have to be paid similar to us. So you can't really go out in free agency and blow your money, or else you might lose some of those impact guys that need to get paid on your squad. Like we still got to pay CD Lamb. We're still gonna have to pay Micah Parsons. We still got to get Dak's deal done. Like there's a lot the Cowboys have to do. So it makes sense why we're not out there throwing money away. You know, maybe they'll get some stuff done and then make some draft moves or something like that. I don't know. Or maybe they'll wait till, there's older guys or like you said, or guys that are out there that haven't been signed, that may be looking to take, a discount to go places, right? Like there's still some guys out there like Tyler Boyd is still out there,
Hmm.
as a wide receiver. We got rid of Michael Gallup, which freed up something like 13 million, which is amazing because he's overrated and we should have never held on to him after, especially after the injury. Um, it's surprising Trent Brown is still out there at tackle. Um, Stephon Gilmore hasn't signed, which is our guy. I know he's older, 33, but if we can get him back on the super discount, vets minimum or something. Chase Young is still out there. San Fran hasn't solidified that, at least at the time of this list that I was that I'm reading was created. And there was someone else that I saw that was notable. From the Jets, Mekhi Becton has not
Mm.
been signed yet, that's a big one. 24-year-old offensive tackle, like and he can be a difference maker.
Yep.
Especially for a team like us where we just lost our vet tackle. So again, I don't know that we can afford that, knowing that we have some signings that have to take place here in the next year or two. But those are still some guys, notable guys that are still out there for sure.
Yeah. And teams don't typically say like who they're trying to re-sign or restructure and things like that. Like I've heard from Dolphins media that Waddle and Jalen Phillips are two they're targeting to get extensions done on.
Hmm.
Do it now before they get more expensive in the future. Especially with Waddle, because I think that the thinking is while you got Tyreek Hill, Waddle is going to be a wide receiver too, even though he's really a wide receiver one. If he played anywhere else, or almost anywhere else, and so it's like let's get him restructured now. We're going to give him wide receiver two money, and then once we lose Tyreek Hill in either a year or two, we've already got his deal done where he's making wide receiver two money, and he's the number one wide receiver in the future. I think the thinking goes. Um, and I agree with that. But you know, we're going to start seeing some of these wide receiver contracts come out, which is going to then allow Waddle to be like, okay, I think we need to come up some because the numbers that I've been seeing thrown around is like in that like 17 to like 21 million range for Waddle
Yep.
if they redo him. But then you're going to start having some of these guys get re-signed who are going to be making like mid 20s, high 20s, and then Waddle might be like I need more. So if they're working on that, I hope they get it done sooner rather than later before comparisons come out, and then you end up having to pay more, and then you end up in the Christian Wilkins situation where it's like Waddle wants more. Okay, let's hold off to next season. Okay, let's hold off to next season, and then you end up losing him.
Yeah. I completely believe that Jalen Waddle is you guys' receiver of the future. No question. I said it all year. I felt like your offense looked better without Tyreek out there, and that was a personal thought. May not have been backed up by stats or anything, but for me looking at it, they looked better. At least the eye test from a fan watching. So, um, moving on to just kind of some of the bigger names, or the ones that we think might make some differences, and then some stuff that might puzzle us a little bit. Like I feel like the biggest one that's gonna puzzles us after we saw the mess last year. Actually, there's two of them, but one of them is Kirk Cousins, 35 years old. Was it Achilles that he just injury or ACL? Achilles. Okay, so Kirk Cousins is
Achilles.
coming off an Achilles tear. Um, and the Falcons thought it was a good idea to give this guy at 35 another 4-year, $180 million contract. Like, and what was guaranteed on that?
100
Something like
mil
90,
guaranteed.
100 mil. 100 mil guaranteed after last year. And don't get me wrong, I'm on record multiple times saying I feel like the Dolphins thought that Desmond Ritter was their guy when, the Lamar
Falcons.
Jackson
Falcons.
sweeps, or Falcons, I'm sorry. When the Falcons were not going after Lamar Jackson last year, I felt like they were giving him a year. He's a young kid. And it made sense. But okay, I get it. If that was the case, you did the test, he didn't work out. How is Kirk Cousins the guy that you go after when Justin Fields was out there and ends up getting scooped up yesterday for a future 6th round pick that could potentially turn into a 4? Like I just I don't I don't understand the Falcons, man. I don't understand them.
Yeah, I don't either. Um, it's insane to me. Like, given they had the chance to get Lamar last year, and you pass on Lamar because you don't want to pay him what he thinks he's worth, right?
Hmm.
And then you go out and draft Kirk Cousins, which means you're going to be in the quarterback market again in like 2 years, maybe. Um, when you could have just went out and got Lamar and just been done with it, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and then now, like this year, you give Kirk Cousins all that money coming off an Achilles. He's 30 something years old,
35.
and it. I agree with you. I don't understand Atlanta's thinking because they kind of remind me of us, meaning the Dolphins, when Marino left, and we never like made a good effort to replace him. It was always like let's patchwork, patchwork, patchwork at quarterback. And we can see in this league at every team that's successful, they have a franchise quarterback.
Hmm.
Nobody is successful with a patchwork quarterback, you know. And even if you want to, try to say, well, the Rams won a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford, he wasn't their franchise guy. Yeah, but they traded for a guy who is a franchise quarterback who still was, kind of at the height of his powers. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so even though he wasn't a guy that they drafted and brought up through all the trials and pain and suffering, etc., he's still a franchise guy that they brought in. And Kirk Cousins is not that. You're not going to the promised land with Kirk Cousins. And I just don't get it. And then especially when you look at the fact that Justin Fields was traded for a 6th round pick that could become a fourth depending on playing time. So you could have got Justin Fields for nothing, and
Or Russ, $1 million
right,
dollars or something like that.
and just had a super young core. And even that part, like I saw a thing on Twitter this morning, or X or whatever, saying that the fact that Russell Wilson is playing for a $1.2 million contract, veteran minimum, and then they got Justin Fields for a 6th round pick that could become a fourth. It just kind of shows you the way that the NFL GMs value, black quarterbacks. who
Right.
aren't in their prime, basically, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, or whatever, because, the fact that Kirk Cousins he's older than Russ, he's less successful than Russ, and his contract is more than Russ by $179 million, just kind of tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. It's they fleeced a lot of the Bears. I feel like the Steelers fleeced the Bears like big time with that Justin Fields trade. Like you're telling me that you settled, and maybe they just didn't want him in the NFC, but you settled for a 6 rounder. I'm sure there's other teams out there that made offers probably higher than that. I'm sure of it. There's no way. I mean, you're telling me that the Eagles, they said the Eagles were, making or trying to make a deal with the Bears. You're telling me the Eagles weren't willing to give a future sixth up? The Eagles, who have been making probably some of the best team moves for the last 3 to 5 years, in my
Hmm.
opinion, even though I hate that team, the front office has been like how he's been making things happen, and you're telling me that they weren't going to give you a future six that could be a fourth? I'm sure they probably were giving him something in this draft. Like it's just crazy. It, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if that was yesterday or Friday when I said,
Also, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I
when
thought I
I had just
misspoke
been
for a
saying
second.
chat about how maybe the Bears are asking for too much, because I was thinking like maybe they're asking for like a second, and nobody wants to, if you're gonna bring in a guy who can sit on the bench, you don't want to give up a second, but the fact that it was like, even like if it was a sixth, right? I'm pretty sure there's a team out there that was willing to give up a fifth. Like I don't understand how that happened. And it could be like you said, where they just didn't want him to go to an NFC team, and so they took less and sent him to the AFC.
How did
But
the
Pittsburgh
Patriots not
kind
go
of
out
making
and
sense.
get Justin Fields?
Yeah.
Like
Pittsburgh also kind of set themselves up for the future a little bit too, I think, because
a lot of it.
now you got your starting quarterback. Like, people are saying, oh, it's going to be a quarterback competition in Pittsburgh. And I've seen some Pittsburgh media people saying, I talked to my sources and they say there is no competition. Wilson's the starter. So,
Yeah, there's no
um,
competition.
right. And so, but now you've set yourself up to where you got your quarterback right now, maybe for a year or two, your bridge guy, and then you got the future. You got Jordan Love waiting behind him. Kind of like in a Green Bay situation.
Yep.
So,
The competition is health to me.
right,
Um,
right.
I feel like the competition is health. That division plays some really good defenses. They're gonna play the Ravens. They're gonna play the Bengals in Cleveland, right? Who historically have put together some really good defenses, and both of them, at least the Browns and the Ravens, were top defenses last year. So we'll see how Russ can perform under that, but I don't think there's a competition at all. I think they're like, all right, let's bring a guy with a similar skill set in Justin Fields in, and let Russ mentor this guy. We give Russ a year. The only way Russ comes out of there, I think, is if he starts something like 0-6, 1-5, or you know what I mean? Then
Yeah,
maybe they pass the torch. But I don't know. Like I think he'll play pretty well with that team. The Falcons, though, and not only the Falcons, but Tom Brady,
piece
Drew
of shit.
Brees, and Matt Stafford have these executives caught in the moment. It's not normal for a 35, 36, 37-year-old quarterback to go out there and do great things and bring Super Bowls. This is not a norm. That's not the norm.
Hmm.
They're prisoners of the moment, and especially someone who has not shown the flashes of extreme greatness. I mean, Kirk Cousins has had some good seasons, but like we said, all of those good seasons he's had, we've never felt like, yo, that team's gonna win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Never. So again, I don't get what they're doing. I don't know why they think a 35-year-old guy getting 100 guaranteed is a good idea at this point, especially when they have a bunch of young guys there. um some other big moves that I think can be impactful to other teams, which kind of one of them really frustrates me. Saquon Barkley, in interdivisional signing, straight fuck you to the Giants. went from the Giants to the Eagles, right up the street. And as I'm thinking through some of this stuff, right? I thought initially I'm like, man, he's like, man, fuck you guys. But also I'm thinking like he has an opportunity to stay fairly close to where he's been, right? So why not? Right? It saves you from having to pick up and move across the whole country. And at the same time, you get to say F you to
Right.
the Giants. I don't like that deal for us. I do like that deal for the Eagles if he can stay healthy, right? I think that's the biggest piece is we've seen lots of injuries out of Saquon. We've seen lots of scares even when he didn't get injured where he's, gotten off and come back, a couple plays later. But I think 3 years, 37, you're not giving up the farm. You're taking a little bit of a risk for a guy that could take you to the Super Bowl, if he
Right.
stays healthy and continues to be, playing at a high level.
Yeah. You know, and the thing too is like I saw a lot of people who were like, one first I like the signing for the Eagles,
Hmm.
um, but I saw a lot of people who were like, oh man, this is great for Saquon and also for like running backs in general because he signed this contract and we've been talking about for years how the running back position hasn't really been getting paid like that, but when you look at the way his contract breaks down, like people are like, oh, this is like a $14 million a year contract or something, like I can't remember what the average salary is or whatever. And I'm
Hmm.
like, no, it's not. Like it's definitely not a $14 million, per year contract or whatever, you know. And with any of these contracts, I always tell my brother, like the devils are in the details, because I feel like most fans look at a contract and say, oh, this guy signed 5 years, $100 million. It means that he's making $20 million a year. And that is definitely not the case. Like for Saquon, he's gonna get paid. This contract essentially had 26 million guaranteed at signing, meaning that the 26 million of it was a signing bonus. So he
Hmm.
got that up front. And then this coming year, he's gonna make 3.9 million for this coming season. And then next year, um, he's gonna have an $11 million base. And then after 2025, they can walk away from him because for the guaranteed portion of this contract, um they essentially pay it out all up front, all of the guaranteed
Right.
money. So they can literally walk away from him after next season if they want. And then um in year three, which will be 2026, where you're scheduled to make $15 million, he might not even be on the roster anymore.
Right. That's oh, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is another big one. Tennessee to the Ravens. And I mean, luckily I think for the Ravens, Derrick Henry has looked bad these last few seasons, but I
Hmm.
mean, he could still be a bruiser, I think, at any point. I mean, he's 30 years old. He's a really big guy. He's fast. And the type of game they play, that's what they needed. And I think this also allows for them to get some mileage off of Lamar, in a sense. You can call more actual run plays. You can get him coming out from lining up under the center and handing it off, you know, that way versus everything coming out of shotgun options galore and stuff like that, because now you have a guy that can get that short yardage or maybe even break the big ones. Pause. um I like that signing for Baltimore. They gave him, a big Reese's cup and a large glass of milk. 2 years is 16 million for a guy like that.
Yep.
I feel like they got off, pause, nicely, and you know I think it'll be good for them.
Yeah, I think that was a great signing for them. And Derrick Henry was a guy that I wanted us to go after if
Mhm.
the if the price was right.
Price was
And
right, right,
yeah, the price was definitely right. So, I'm not sure if that was somebody that the team just wasn't interested in. Like it was more of a fan thing versus something the team ever wanted. But Like that's a great signing for them, especially you're not really signing Derrick Henry for the season because they've already shown they can go do well in the season without having like a bruiser stud kind of running back, But
Right.
um um in the playoffs, especially when it's cold and stuff like that's where Derrick Henry's gonna come into play.
Indeed, and they play in the cold, pretty
Hmm.
frequently. Um, I'm pretty confused about Patrick Queen to the Steelers. Like going over from Baltimore to the Steelers, 24-year-old stud linebacker, 3 years, 41 million. I'm thinking Baltimore must have had a bad relationship with this guy for him to leave, for that kind of deal to a competitor.
Hmm.
Um, because I think that Patrick Queen at linebacker probably could have gotten a lot more than that. Maybe not a lot more, but I think he could have gotten more than that. Because I think he's one of the top linebackers personally in the league, and at 24 years old, I think it only gets better from there. I don't even think he's at his peak. I think he peaks, this year or next year, especially in that defense with Minka. And I mean, God, that Steelers defense just continues to get better,
Yeah.
continues to get better.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that was a great signing for them, man. And I think it kind of also shows that remember that talk last season when people were like, "Man, Mike Tomlin should probably leave, not necessarily retire, but maybe go to another team. He don't really seem to be into it anymore in Pittsburgh." And he's like, "I'm not going anywhere." And the team is showing, and we're definitely still trying to win here. We're not just going along to get along or whatever. We're not content with, finishing in third place in the division every year and watching Baltimore and Cincinnati, get all the flowers or whatever. Like, we're a historic franchise, and you know, we're going to show you why we're the team in this division that's won a Super Bowl the most recently. So,
yep. And we don't care that we're in this city. We're gonna go bring some black men in here.
hmm.
Patrick Queen, two black quarterbacks, like that's a little bit of a change of
Yep,
pace for the Steelers.
yep,
But like you said, you got Tomlin standing back there, and from everything that you ever hear, aside from maybe Antonio Brown, who's a little crazy or a lot crazy, guys will run through a wall for him,
yeah.
for
That
Tomlin.
dude's a
So
troll, man. And Antonio Brown.
yeah, he
I
is.
saw yesterday he was bragging about himself on Twitter because Joe Biden blocked him, and
Yeah, I
he's
saw that.
like, you know, and and for him it's like fan service. He's like, people are like, "What you do? Oh my god, man, he didn't know what he was doing." Somebody, it's just like, dude, like get a life, dude. Like it
Yeah, I
seems like
promise you're not the guy that
yeah,
the president's worried about.
exactly.
You know, you're not. Um, Real quick rundown just to some other notable names. Chris Jones stayed home. Josh Allen, for the Jags, stayed home on a franchise tag. L'Jarius Sneed stayed home in Kansas City. Jalen Johnson
Did Snead get franchised or he signed a deal?
he got tagged
Okay.
1 year, 19 million for him. Jalen Johnson stayed home with the Bears. Bears gonna be they're looking like they're trying to do something.
You
Um,
think they trade out of that first, or you think they're going to get a guy?
that's a good question, man. That's a good question. Do they believe in Caleb? You know,
I
I,
mean,
I don't
I
I
I
don't know
I
if I
don't.
believe in Caleb.
Yeah, I think there's still some questions about Caleb Williams, and then also, I mean, the Bears they have the first and I believe the ninth. I want to say. I know they have two top 10 first rounders. I'm not sure if it's first and ninth or like first and seventh or something like that or whatever.
Yep.
But you could trade out of that first for King. I mean, we've seen teams acquire like three first round picks for that number one overall.
So I think where it gets a little bit tough is they're number one, but everyone that's up there is in a position where they need quarterbacks.
Mm,
Washington is 2. New England is 3. Both of those teams need quarterbacks. Arizona may not be sold on Kyler, right?
right.
They may go grab somebody, or they may wait till late and see if they can get something there because they're invested in his contract. Then you got the Chargers. Giants need a quarterback. Tennessee needs a quarterback.
Mm,
Then you get into Atlanta, who's gonna need to get some type of backup because they traded Desmond Ritter, right? So they're gonna need a backup. I don't think they take anyone early, not first round, but um, Chicago is 9 again, right? So in that top 9, they're in there twice, but I think there's still 3 to 4 teams that may take quarterbacks that early.
yeah.
um, Washington did a lot in free agency, so I do see them taking a quarterback early. The Patriots, I can see taking a quarterback because they got rid of Mac Jones, and at the moment they don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
And then the Giants. I mean, are they going to roll with Danny Dimes? Do they really think that they brought in Drew Lock as their backup? Do they think that those are the two guys of their future? I doubt it. And then
I doubt
Tennessee's
it.
definitely taking a quarterback, right?
Yeah. Because see, I was thinking like, okay, you trade out of the first, and then maybe like trade back in to like the sixth. But I just
Mhm.
pulled up the order, and I'm like, yeah, that ain't happening. So if
Right.
you know,
And then even after them at 9, right? Even if they waited to 9 to take a quarterback, or they didn't, you still got the Jets after them, the Vikings after them, the Broncos after them, the Raiders. All these teams need quarterbacks, so they have to, in one of those two picks, they have to take a quarterback. And I don't know that this draft is deep enough at quarterback for them to maybe lose out on 2 or 3 of them early and try to grab one at 9.
yeah, that makes sense.
Not to be a
Yeah. So
contender, at least.
yeah, so you're probably better off going to get your guy, unless I
Yeah,
mean, unless they're just not sold on Fields, like you said, and then somebody
I
offers
think
you a king ransom.
I think either you go get him or you parlay. Well, the Patriots just traded back. If I remember correctly, I thought the Patriots traded back. I'll have to look at that because I saw that yesterday, but it doesn't look like it's updated here. Um, but unless you move to 4, no, 3, and give the Patriots the first if they want it over the Commanders, because the Commanders are going to get a guy. Or maybe you move to 7, but I mean, again, then you're still behind New England and Washington. I don't know that there's a route to greatness here for the Bears. I think again, the Commanders did a lot in free agency, so I think it's inevitable that they pick a quarterback and hope that they get it right in this situation at 2. No question.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
T. Higgins franchise tag. He's staying home. Brian Burns went from edge rusher from Carolina, went to the Giants. That's a notable signing. That was a trade though. Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans are staying in Tampa Bay, so they're gonna try and get their lick back. Michael Pittman staying put. With Indy, Calvin Ridley was a move. He's going to the Titans, so he went from that's another divisional signing. Somewhat, he went from the Jaguars to the Titans. I mean, he only spent a year with the Jags, so but definitely a divisional move there. Let's see, what any other no Josh Jacobs, another divisional move from the Raiders to Green Bay. Oh, and Green Bay then went and got rid of Aaron Jones, who went to the Vikings.
yep. And then they got Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, so that's gonna be an interesting division because Minnesota doesn't have a quarterback. The Bears don't have a quarterback. Um, Green Bay's got Jordan Love, and now they have Josh Jacobs, and they got some wide receivers over there. So Green Bay could do something up there. And then
Hmm.
the Lions are they're kind of the team to be beat in that division, if you will, today, because they just won that division. So that's going to be an interesting division to watch. I think there's some easy wins there if Minnesota and the Bears don't do something at quarterback.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm just wondering what's the Bears plan at quarterback? Like are
I
they going to go
mean,
with that dude that was starting when Fields was hurt? Like
I mean, it seems like they're gonna draft a guy, but you know, I mean, we've talked on the podcast plenty of times about how these teams try to microwave everything and they don't want to develop a guy. So it seems like whoever they go after is going to be the starter on day one instead of bringing in like a bridge guy. And you know, if they were even if they were planning to do a bridge type of situation, I mean, who's out there? So
Right.
yeah, I was going to say Jameis, but I forgot he signed with Cleveland already. So I it seems like whoever they pick is going to be the guy, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Well, it'll be interesting to watch to see how the rest of this plays out. There's still some guys out there to be signed, like I said. But for the most part, a lot of the big names are gone, and you know, some veterans out there: Tyler Boyd, Odell Beckham. Probably take a super low deal if I'm him at this point. Connor Williams, you guys. I wonder where he lands.
Um, he's waiting for right now. His agent is Drew Rosenhaus, and
Okay.
the Dolphins want to bring him back, but since he still hasn't finished recovering from the ACL, he's apparently waiting to sign. You know, I guess maybe the thinking is if he signs now, it's going to be discounted because he's hurt. So maybe like you know, get better and then like do like that thing where players put like some tape out there of them running, cutting, or doing whatever it is that they do at their position, and then try to get a deal done.
Yeah. Raiders went and got Gardner Minshew. I don't know if I mean he did okay. Did okay last
Yeah.
last year. So we'll see, man. There's a lot to shape itself out. New faces and new places. It's gonna be interesting. So much movement in the leagues nowadays. NFL, NBA, even MLB. We don't talk too much about it, but lots of movement during free agency nowadays. People just don't seem to hold on to these guys. So
hmm and that's the thing that kind of upset me with free agency this year, real quick, is that we've lost all these guys that we lost this free agency. Christian Wilkins to the Raiders, um, Robert Hunt to the Panthers, Andrew Van Ginkel to the Vikings. I don't know where Brandon Jones went, but we lost him as well. Um, are all guys that we drafted, and so the hope always is that you're making the right decisions at the draft to build a roster, and all the guys that I named, or three of them that I named, are starters, and then Andrew Van Ginkel is a guy that probably could start on other teams, but he wasn't able to start for us because we had Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb.
yeah,
So he would come in if they needed a break, or for injury situations or whatever. But and Jerome Baker, we lost him too. He just went to the Seahawks, another guy that we drafted, and not to mention, honorable mention, I guess you could say, to Minka Fitzpatrick, who's killing it in Pittsburgh, another guy that we drafted. So it's like, what the hell is the point of drafting well if you can't retain any of these guys?
yep, yep. No, you're right. You're right. On the flip side, we tend to do that too. We try to we draft well, but we usually do hold on to them, for the most
Right,
part, and then they go
right.
on to other teams and they and then they become headaches. A lot of them end up with the Bears and they become headaches. They start robbing people and shit like that. So, um, but we'll see. We will see. Oh, the Bears got DeAndre Swift. So that's a guy that left the Lions that didn't want to pay him, went to Philly and had a pretty decent year, and now he's going back to the Bears to give the Lions the big fu if
Yep.
they can get moving. So a lot of spiteful shit be happening in the NFL. It looks like these
Yeah.
dudes is divas. Um, so All right, so let's move on from NFL unless you have anything else that we need to cover in that space. Um okay, let's do it. Love is Blind. Did you watch the you watched the reunion, right? All
Yep,
right.
sure did.
What was your highlight, I'll ask you, of the
I,
reunion?
honestly, I thought the what's my man Trevor.
Trevi Trevs?
Yo, when he came out, I was like, yo, like they probably should send somebody back there to make sure he's okay. Like
Yo,
my man seemed like
it's
he was down bad.
the way they like painted that, like the way they set up that picture. It was like, oh shit, Trevor's gonna come out. They've been leading up all up to the reunion, like, oh, Jess is dating someone from the cast, blah 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 blah. And then they keep showing this guy, they keep showing, and I'm like, oh shit, all right. And then I'm like, well, is it Jess, or is it, maybe he's with Chelsea, or and then and they he's smiling and shit, right? He's smiling. I think they completely blindsided him, yo. I don't think they prepped him for that. I don't think they were
Yeah,
like, "Yo, we're gonna ask you about your girl that was at home."
yeah, I agree. I think that he probably definitely was blindsided by that, and because like you even see him say, 'cause I think he knew not necessarily that they were going to ask him, but he knew that was out there because apparently like she posted it on social media or something like that, the
Mhm.
screenshots. And because you hear him say, I had an answer prepared for this, but then he can't find the words.
Oh,
But that dude looked like he was hurting, man. He was hurting. But it just kind of goes to show you, you talked about this, and I was telling you that I saw these two girls they were on the show in whatever season, and they do a podcast together about like these reality shows and stuff. And the one girl was saying like it seems like this season you can see that that a lot of the people aren't there for the premise of the show. They're there to get famous.
yep.
And you kind of see that with Trevor, given the fact that he's going into a show that is about finding somebody to marry, and like literally on the plane on the way to the show he's texting his girlfriend out, I love you, you're my one, and all this kind of stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it was crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about this in the past, where there's usually events that lead to these spikes in reality TV or unscripted TV shows. Like last time it was the writer strike, and then I think this time Netflix had its big blow up during COVID. When COVID was down, I think they just had a bunch of these shows: Love is Blind, The Circle. I think it's called Love Island. There's like a bunch. There's a shitload of them. They got like 5 different ones.
Yeah,
Perfect Match,
perfect match.
where they just were like, "Yo, let's get some real people." Either they had them there, people had already filled them, and was like, "Hey, look, this is what we got," and they're like, "I don't know if that's gonna make a splash." You know what I mean? Let's put this in the vault. And then COVID hits, they're not getting new content, and people are at home and they're like, what do we got in the vault? Let's try some of this reality shit that might play on people's heartstrings. You know
Right.
what I mean? People are sitting at home tired of their significant other. Let's make them think about love and finding love
Yep.
elsewhere, you know.
And then with and
Um,
they're not like one of the reasons they make reality shows, like I've seen them talk about, like not them, but like industry people, is that they don't cost a lot of money because you don't need writers, you need
mhm,
minimal like camera crew, producers, and stuff like that.
yep.
And for
And
them,
your
it's like
talent budget.
right, you don't got a talent budget, like the people the people on the show get paid, but these people make like some of them it'd be like $5,000-6,000 an episode.
Right.
So especially like on a show that requires you to be voted out. So now it's like every episode your talent budget is going down 6 grand. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's
None of
getting
them are
cheaper
coming
per
in with
episode.
Yeah, none of them are coming in with agents, so there's no residuals. You have no
Right.
long-term tie to this person unless after the season they tend to blow, or halfway through you see them blowing up or something like that. You think that they're going to blow up, and maybe Netflix strikes some type of deal with them. But a
Hmm.
lot of them we see on these other shows. Like there was a dude on another season of Love Is Blind that was on Perfect Match, and then
Yep.
there was a guy from The Circle that was on Perfect Match. So it's almost like they form this Netflix unscripted fraternity, and they
Yep.
kind of just shift gears around to the different places. But
And CBS was like that. CBS was like, you see a guy who was on Survivor, and then a few years ago by that person would be on Big Brother, and then you see him on Amazing Race or whatever, so
mhm.
and then
And then the
now,
challenge.
excuse me, I was just gonna say that now, like with the way you said, I don't watch the challenge, but now that you said that they have, people from like all the shows versus just Road Rules or Real World. And so now they end up there as well. Traders, they end up there. So
Yep, no doubt.
yeah. So and
No
and
doubt.
and and a lot of these people is that's what they want. Is they don't necessarily care about, what the show is about. It's just I want to get on the show to set up these future things. I mean, if you look at a guy like Johnny Bananas or CT, I mean, these two guys' whole life is MTV or at whatever
Yep,
channel the challenge comes on now. I don't even know. But
CBS.
I wonder if they've ever had an actual job, because all they've done is, Real World or Road Rules, whatever they were on. I know CT was on Real World. I don't remember what Johnny Bananas was on, but they've done that. And then the challenge.
Yep. And now they're branching out. They both were on Traders, and they
Hmm.
won. And CT won. Spoiler alert for anyone who didn't watch Traders. But CT wins Traders season 2, which is the first one with some of those types of players on it, strategy game players. That now it's endless for if you can get into these games. The
Yeah.
trust we talk. I think you said that. You get
And then
into these
also for
shows. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say to your point where you were talking about like not having talent and stuff like that.
Hmm.
By bringing in these folks, you already know what they're like on TV, so you kind of know what you're getting, versus like a brand like a on that show, The Trust, where all those people we've never seen anywhere else. And so it's like, okay, we put together this cast. We hope that it works, but if you put a show together where it's like, okay, we're bringing in this person from Big Brother, this person from Survivor, these people from the challenge, we already know we know what we're getting in these folks. And so we
Right.
know that this season should be good. You know what I mean? And so that's probably also the reason that these shows just keep recycling these people over and over again.
Yep. And I think, like you said, some of these people on Love Is Blind, Clay, I think specifically knew that. Clay knows, like this guy, he's a smart guy. You can tell that he's highly intelligent. You could tell that he either is thinking about this or is being coached through all of this because it seems very calculated. It seems like he's making the stage, making the bed, right? They went through this whole season where if you're not paying attention and you can't read a person, right, you're thinking, man, this guy is changing, he's changing in front of our eyes, right? And then you get to the end, you're like, he's changed, he's at the altar, look at that, right? And now you're at this peak, and then it's like building up Jenga, and then he just knocks the shit down. You know what I mean? And he's like, nah, dog, right? Now he comes to the reunion and he's like, oh, I worked through some things. I would absolutely love to have you back. Since then, it's been this long, blah, blah, blah. He's setting up to either go on another show, or if Netflix was to really get the interest, right? If they were to get the interest based on, him and AD, set up something to follow them for a certain amount of time. And if it becomes entertainment, then maybe they put it out. Maybe not. They just throw it in the vault until the next pandemic, you know?
Right.
Um, but I think he knows
And
that.
right. And like you look at these people, right? Like on the reunion, Jess said that she's gonna be on Perfect Match, right?
Mhm.
And the to me,
Put that on
like
my list.
um to me, that just kind of just shows you like to the point that you were just making about these people setting themselves up to be on these shows, right? Because you look at somebody like Jess or whatever, as attractive as she is, and it's like you can't get a dude. Like, come on now,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like let's be real here. You have to go on a reality TV show to find a guy.
Right.
Come on. Like if Chelsea and Laura and those like those types from the shows, like, okay, I get it, you know what I mean. And I mean, it's not even like they're bad looking or whatever, but still. But Jess looks like she could be a model almost, you know what I'm
Right.
saying. And it's like, you can't get a dude, you had to go on a reality show, and then it didn't work out for you on this reality show, so you got to go on another reality show to find a guy.
Right.
Like, really?
Right.
Come on.
Even with a 10-year-old, and not only is she a baddie, but we saw that she has amazing personality. If that was
Right.
real, like if that was real and she's that type of person, then like it's crazy. I saw somebody say, I'm in Love Is Blind group on Facebook, and somebody was like, they put a picture of her up, and they're like, "Yo, let's be honest. 99% of the rooms that Jess walks into, she's the baddest. So for her to walk in there and act like she doesn't know, it doesn't look like this is real. It almost seems like it's scripted and like she's a plant. Uh,
Exactly.
so I don't know how you feel about that, but even if she's not, I agree with you 100%. And we've been saying this for weeks. These people just know this is an opportunity, and especially for her, especially, I mean, Clay, he still has to live the rest of his life as a black man. Right? So he's gonna have to fight for those opportunities regardless of how good or bad this all plays on him, the negativity he gets, his parents get, and all of that stuff through this experience and what we've seen. But for her, she is a very attractive white woman. She is going to land on her feet from all of this. Somewhere, some way, it's going to land her deals, especially because she was the damsel.
Right. Exactly. No, I
So,
mean, that makes a lot of sense, man, because it's just, I don't know, some of these folks, man. Like, I've never, like, any of these dating shows. The only one I really ever watch is this Love Is Blind one, and I've only seen this season.
mhm.
But like all of these shows, like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Perfect Match, whatever they are,
Perfect match is
the
good.
but they typically have on there people that are young, extremely attractive. Some of them are very successful, and
Mhm.
so it's like, and I guess maybe that could be, me being vain, thinking like, oh, this person looks good, or they're successful, so they should be able to date. That could be a very, vain way of looking at people in general. But I feel like that's kind of the way our society is. So I don't think
Mhm.
I'm off the mark here, you know. And the fact that those people can't find a relationship to me, and they say, in order to find, I can't meet a person, at the park, at the grocery store, at the club, at wherever these places are that people meet. So I have to go on a reality TV show where I'm meeting someone who is not even from where I live, because I'm from Seattle and this person is from, Charlotte or whatever. And that's gonna be my person. It just seems outlandish to me.
Mhm. And I think some of them may just be seeing this as an opportunity to test if they have what it makes, or you know what I mean, to be enter in entertainment, right? Like they may know that they're bad. They may like you said, Trevor. Like I don't think Trevor had any type of intentions of really moving forward. I think he played his part well too. I think it was scripted for him in his mind. Maybe they didn't script it, but I think in his mind, him and his woman may have scripted it and said, "Yo, you are a buff dude. You know what I mean? Get on here, go play the heartstrings, cry, find one person, attach to it, and see if it works." And then it worked out even better because she broke his heart, quote unquote. So
Right.
had those text messages, had they not put all of that out into the universe, it's very possible that he could have been the woe was me guy who could have had all types of follow-ups. Broads are like, oh no, the poor Trevor, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
again, the groups that I'm in, they're like, man, this was like the perfect guy. This is the guy that I'm reading the messages that people are leaving, and then after the reunion, oh boy, did they kill him.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Trevor though, they owe him. Clay and Jimmy owe him. And Jeremy. They need to send him a check for at least for something for getting all that heat off of them.
Yeah.
because he walked in, they ate his ass up, and then it was like, all right, completely forgot that Clay was a scumbag, completely forgot all the shit that Jeremy did. Only thing that reminded you of the shit Jeremy did was Sarah Ann sitting there looking like she was she was at a 2014 prom.
Yeah. They
Dog, who styled her?
uh,
Like,
they
and you
probably
know,
still style
I like
themselves at this
Sarah Ann.
point.
You know, I like Sarah Ann. I know you don't
Yeah.
like Sarah Ann. Because you know, for your reasons, but I like Sarah Ann for my reason. You know, I like her, and she's 10 toes. She's 10 toes, bitch. I lost in the bubble, but guess what? Them pods, you won in them pods, but I won in real life. Guess what?
Right. You
You
won the
know,
battle war.
exactly, exactly. And that's another one where maybe, you know, if I'm Netflix, maybe I talk to them and be like, yo, you mind if we get a crew following you guys just to see how this works out? You
Yeah.
know, because I think people will be interested to see. And of course, you know, you script some shit into it, or Jeremy does some dumb shit. Like, you know, we already heard that they was beefing and that they allegedly broke up for a little bit. Like, I think there's some possibilities from this cast and this season of Love Is Blind to continue to watch.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So, but I thought it overall was pretty good. At least it caught us, right? It made us want to watch it and continue to watch it. I'll go back and watch some of the others, but like I said, I tried, and they didn't catch me like this one. I don't know why this one got me. Maybe you know they did something different. But and yeah, it's probably the beautiful people.
Yeah, I thought about going back to watch some of the older ones. Like my initial thought was no, and then I had a good time watching this season, so I was like, I might go back and check out another season. But then at the finale or at the reunion, when they had all those people from the previous cast, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch now. Like I've seen
Yeah,
who
they look
kind of who's gonna get
boring.
together.
Hmm. They look boring. They look like you and me. Like they look they look like they live down the street from us. I think
Hmm.
that's the difference makers. You got people that don't look like you can reach out and touch, like for
Yeah,
the most part. I mean, some of
and
them did
even
look.
them, the people from the previous cast kind of make the point that we're making about these folks wanting to be, essentially like D-list celebrities, right?
Mhm.
And because you look at the one girl who said, oh, she now does casting for Love Is Blind because she's always wanted to travel, and so now she gets to travel and go and meet people because she goes around to do the casting. Um, you had the other dude who was like, "Oh, we just got back from Italy, and now we're going to, to Paris, and we're doing this, we're doing that," because these people, they make money off the side off this. Like I remember there was a cat from, remember that VH1 show I Love New York with the chick from
Yeah.
Flavor Flav?
Yep.
It was a guy who was on I Love New York, and he was gonna be at some club on South Beach, and they were like, "Oh, come on such and such night, so and so from I Love New York is gonna be there, or whatever." And I'm like, people going to a club because he's gonna be there. And I remember my brother at the time, he was bouncing. It was when the whole the big recession happened back in '08, and my brother couldn't find a job, so he was a bouncer at one of those clubs on South Beach. He was like, man, them clubs he paying these dudes 20, 40, 50 grand to come here, like these people who are barely famous, as
Mhm.
promotion to get people in. So I think those folks see themselves in that vein. You know what I mean? Like, oh, come out to the Crazy Horse tonight or whatever, Sopranos plug. Um, Trevor's gonna be there. Come see Chelsea at this spot or whatever.
Yeah.
So they look at it like that, where it's like, not only can I be on this show, I can set myself up for another show like Jessica or like the chick who does the casting, but I also can go and make money on the side off of my name from from being on the show or whatever.
Yep. Do walkthroughs, all types of shit. Even
Yeah.
even just talk to people like, yo, you want to get into reality? You know, you trying to get onto a reality show? You know, I can give you some pointers. You know what it
Hmm.
takes and what the reality looks like behind the scenes.
And,
Um,
and and then also too, real quick on that, like even like on Jess, like with the whole, like you were saying, like was she playing a character, right? On the show, she talks about her daughter all the time. Oh my God, I miss her so much. Oh, she's my world. Da 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 da. So you leave one reality show and then go to another one. You're a single mom
well,
who
she
your whole world
understands.
is your daughter. And so you go spend however much time on one reality show. Now that the show is airing, you're spending even more time doing interviews and podcasts and all these kind of things that they require for the show, right? And then, or even if they don't require it, you're doing it on your own. Just keep your name out there, and
Mhm.
then you're gonna turn around and go do Perfect Match. I'm assuming they've already filmed it. Who knows? You know. But then once that starts airing, you got to turn around and do all of that shit over again, or
Mhm.
whatever. But your 10-year-old daughter is your whole world, or whatever. It's like, you know.
Yeah. Well, she understands. She wants mommy to be happy. She wants mommy to find love. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. But not too much on Jess. Uh, Damn you, Jimmy. You so damn dumb. I know he kicking himself. I know he is kicking himself every day, dog. He probably wake up. I like. I know he wake up every day and be like, day number 376 of post fuck up.
Yeah.
Cause boy, if that was real deal, man, they listen.
he
All right,
he heard Chelsea Fox, and he was all
Megan
in
Fox.
at that point.
Yeah, Chelsea Fox, Megan Fox, and she played that game too. I saw somebody say that too on in the group. They were like their relationship was never gonna work. Their relationship was never gonna work because once they were out, like Jimmy saw how bad she was, and so he was always gonna resent Chelsea. He even said she went as far as saying Chelsea knew that she had no chance at beating Jess in beyond that. And so that's why she lied and said she looked like Megan Fox to try and win. And then once she was out, she already knew what Jess looked like. So her whole thing was, once he sees her, you know, I probably don't have a chance anyway. So that relationship was never gonna work. That was
You know what? That makes a lot. I never thought about that, but it like hearing you say it makes a lot of sense because in the pods, in the women and men's living quarters, they're kind of talking to each other about who they're seeing. So it's
mhm,
very likely that Chelsea knew that Jess was Jimmy's other option. And so,
100%.
because at least in the way that the show is edited, we don't know everything that was said because it's edited, but in the way that the show is edited, it doesn't appear that Jess talks to Jimmy about looks. It seems like they're just doing the whole Love is Blind.
Yeah.
And it's not until she knows he's going to choose chess to where she tells him, you're going to choke on your EpiPen or whatever. Um, um, and maybe Chelsea did do that. Like, oh, maybe he's talking to Jess about looks, and she can describe what she looks like, but
Mhm,
he don't know for sure. So I'm gonna tell her I get compared to Megan Fox all the time, and
mhm. All the
yeah, that
time. People
it makes
always
sense.
tell me this.
People tell me
Yeah,
I look like Megan. Like who? You
yeah.
look more like Jay Leno than Megan Fox.
She looked more like a lot of things than Megan Fox. Eyes, that's it. That's all they got in common. They got
Hmm.
favorable eyes, same color. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where they go next year with or next season with Love Is Blind. I think they may be onto something now that they cracked the code of getting going viral.
Yeah,
Um, Netflix is doing some things. They're finding ways to make their shows go viral.
yeah.
Um, you been watching anything else while we're here? I know you've been watching Survivor. I didn't get to watch the second episode, or the third was this week, right?
No, no, second. You only
Oh, second
two
episode.
two episodes in. Yeah.
Okay.
Nah, just, really nothing new except for Survivor, and then Amazing Race just started. So
Mm,
first episode of Amazing Race came on this week. It comes on after Survivor, but like it'd be too late for me. So I watch Survivor on Wednesday, and then I usually just watch Amazing Race like on demand on like either on Saturday or Sunday or whatever. So
gotcha.
checked out both of those. This season on Amazing Race is it's gonna be bad. I think like not like the season's gonna be bad, but like some of these people, they just is like, how'd they get on the show?
Oh,
Because 1 second. Sorry, I didn't want to cough in the mic. Um um like the cast, like some of these people are hurting, they got this father-daughter team, and the dad, like the mom died when they were young, so he basically raised her as a single dad, so they're like super close. And so she's like, my dad is my best friend. I couldn't imagine coming on the show with anybody else but him, blah, 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 blah. So they get on the show, and this is the first season that started outside the United States. They usually always start like in LA, and every now and then they do another city, like they've done Miami, where they started at, they've done New York or whatever, but it's usually always LA. And also, since you don't watch the show, typically in the past, the way it's been is they'll be in LA and he'll be like, on your mark, get set, go. And then they go and they get their first clue. And their first clue is like, go to the airport and make your way to Hong Kong. And then once you get to Hong Kong, you're going to travel to this place or whatever for like the first challenge or whatever. But now the way they do the show is wherever they start, they actually start the challenges in that city. So they're like running around that city, like doing challenges or whatever. And then the next challenge is when they're going to leave that city and go to like Cambodia or something like that, so they start in Puerto Vallarta,
Ayarda.
Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're on the beach, and he tells them, on your mark, get set, go. And they're basically running from this hotel beach to the hotel parking lot, and they're going to get in some marked cars that are waiting for them to go to the first challenge or whatever. And the dad, like, he's not even halfway there yet, and he's already looking like he's about to pass out. And so they get in the car, and he's in there like, that dude is hurt. And I'm like, all the stuff doesn't require running, but like sometimes it's like when you're on your way to the pit stop, it's you and another team that are vying for who's going to be last, and the team that's last gets eliminated, and you literally got to run to the mat or whatever, and it's like this dude couldn't run to the parking lot. Like, I don't know how that's going to work, 2 episodes from now or whatever. So,
Right.
and then there's this other team, these 2 identical twins. They're from Clearwater, Florida, and they're just idiots. Like, they look like surfer dudes who don't got 2 brain cells combined. Like, they're just idiots. So I'm not sure how far they're gonna make it when it gets to the point of like you have to like use some smarts.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with them, and then finally, there's this other team, their siblings, a brother and sister pair, Rohan and Maya.
I think I saw
They
them on the
lead,
commercial.
they lead, right? And so typically, like, you know how reality shows are. Like, people have seen the previous seasons, and so they kind of know what to expect, and they also know how to strategize based off what they've seen previously.
Right.
So on Amazing Race, they'll tell you, you'll be in Seattle and you've never been to Seattle before. So it'll tell you, make your way to, boop, 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 something that's famous in Seattle that's not the Space Needle. You never
Mm-hmm.
been to fucking Seattle. You don't know how to get there. Or like let's say here in Orlando, for example, you land at the airport and the thing tells you to find your next clue, make your way to Camping World Stadium. You don't know where the fuck that's at.
Right.
You don't know how to get there. You know what I mean? So most people will go and get a map, or they'll stop and ask a local, like, hey, can I use your phone real quick? And the person will let them go on the phone and Google, and they'll get directions or whatever. They were like, the other team's left out ahead of us, and so we don't have time to stop. And they're just driving around Mexico. So they're just driving around, Steve. They don't know where the hell they're at, and now they're lost or whatever. So they finally decide to stop and get directions, right? So now they head towards where the challenge is at. They're literally in last place. And they drive down this one-way street and realize the place they got to park, they're on the right street, but the street dead ends. So they need to like go around to get to the street from like another like side street, because where they're at on the street, it dead ends there, right?
Right.
You ever seen the first Austin Powers? The first one,
Yeah.
Austin
Yeah.
Powers movie?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that scene where they're like in that plant and he's trying to turn that golf cart around?
Yeah. Yeah. And they get
They
stuck in
literally are
between the
doing
walls.
that, like in a small ass like little Chevy Volt or whatever, where they get the car stuck and they're trying to turn it around. Yo, That shit was crazy, man. It was crazy, man. Crazy, crazy, crazy. So they got a lot of stupid people on the show who like my Aaron was like, your brother should go on this show. I was like, he won't do well on this show. I was like, he's not an attention to details kind of guy, because one, they had to go to this rodeo thing, and part of the challenge was not only they had to do the challenge, they had to wear a cowboy hat and one of those like neck,
Bolo ties.
thing. Yeah. And the person only put the hat on and not the thing. And so she completes the whole challenge. And then she goes to the lady for the clue. And the lady's like looking at her because they don't tell you what you didn't do wrong. The lady's just looking at
Oh,
her like, I ain't got nothing for you. And so her partner's like, read the clue again. And she reads the clue and she's like, oh shit, I didn't put the tie on. And this particular challenge, it took her 18 attempts to finish it. So she does 18 attempts,
and now she got to
finally
go
gets
get
it
the
right
tie and
on
do it
attempt
again.
18. Got to do the whole shit again.
Oh, but that's what sells. You got to
Yeah.
have the person. You got to have the person or people on any show that's gonna make the audience be like, What are you thinking? You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's what keeps people there, because it gives you that sense of, I need to see how this ends, or
Yeah.
how this proceeds, or when this ends for this person. So
Yeah.
that
And
sounds
it seems like
interesting.
they overlearned their lesson from last season. Last season on Amazing Race. Are you going to watch last season before I say anything?
No, I'm gonna watch this season.
Okay.
See if I
So
like it.
last season, the two dudes that won, it was these two brothers. They're two black dudes, they're brothers, and both of them work in like IT. They were
Hmm.
smart as hell. Steve, I swear that every country they went to, it's almost like these dudes like were plants, because
Mm.
they had one challenge where it was like they were like in Norway or something, and they were doing this thing that's like around like people who get like a Nobel Peace Prizes or whatever. And
Hmm.
so they had to do, it was like this restaurant thing, but the whole menu was in French. And the one brother was like, "Oh, I actually speak French. I lived in France for 2 years doing this job or whatever." So he was just like, boom, 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 done. They out. They went to a chat. The final leg of the race was in Seattle, and so they get to Seattle, and the brother's like, "I actually lived in Seattle. I interned out here after I finished college or whatever. So I lived here for like 3 years or whatever. They're in Cambodia at a sweatshop. He was like, I actually have watched several documentaries on sweatshops, and I work at a nonprofit that fixes sweatshops. So
Right.
it was like
Right.
everything they went to, these dudes have done it in some kind of capacity, and they were just blazing through these challenges, So
Yeah. Yeah. You can't have people that are too smart on on those
yeah,
shows. Because yeah, that's probably yeah.
yeah. Even
Um.
they had a challenge. Those same dude, they had a challenge. They had to do river dancing or whatever. And even though they had never river danced, but because they were like IT guys who are like super smart, have like great memories or whatever, they picked that shit up so fast and went out there
Mhm.
and literally river danced. And maybe was like, I'm black, so I got rhythm. So this is gonna done.
This is
You know.
yeah, this is nothing. Let me go on YouTube real quick. Okay. 4 steps, got it. Yeah. That's
So
crazy.
yeah,
That's
definitely
crazy.
nobody like that this season. Just don't.
I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, they got
Yeah.
one dude who's in NFL also this season. He played for
Oh,
the
really?
Commanders. Yeah, he played for the Commanders back when they were the Redskins. I'm not. His name doesn't seem familiar. He said he was a first round pick, but
Mm,
yeah, he's on there.
that don't mean nothing. If you you can still be a loser in the first round. Look at Jamar Russell. Uh-huh. All right. Let's see what else. Anything going on the political front? I'm sure there's a lot going on
um,
the political front actually.
I mean this week, it's Rod Gardner is the NFL guy who's on Amazing Race this year. Him and his wife. He played from 2001 to 2006.
Gotcha.
But yeah, on the political
Oh,
front,
I had
basically
one.
this week was Super Tuesday, and both Joe Biden and Trump locked up the nomination for both of their respective parties. So both of them are official, not officially, but both of them are now what's called the presumptive nominee, because they're
Mhm.
not the actual nominee into the convention. But the campaign is effectively over. They both secured enough delegates to win the nomination for both parties. Um, this is actually the this campaign is actually going to be the longest campaign in U.S. history. And what they mean by longest is just that like the time that both nominees are set. So
Right. Is the
typically,
earliest.
yeah, typically the Republicans usually knock out their nomination faster because their nominating process is actually set up to be finished faster because almost all of their contests are winner take all. So on the Democratic Party side, it's more proportional.
Right.
So it's kind of set up to go longer to kind of get consensus, whereas the Republican Party is more let's get this done, and um, but this is the first time that we've had both parties kind of wrap up at the same time. So we're going to have a longer general election, basically. But we kind of already known who the nominees were going to be from the start. So it's no surprise. But that happened um, this week. Um, Another big thing that happened this week was Kamala Harris visited a abortion clinic in Minnesota. While she was there, she was talking about what was happening with these IVF rulings down in Alabama, as well as just abortion care as well. She visited a Planned Parenthood, and she's highlighted some of the things that people who support abortion rights talk about when you hear folks talk about defunding Planned Parenthood and things like that. And a lot of people look at Planned Parenthood as just a place that does abortion, where they'll tell you that abortion is only about 3% of the things they do there. The things they normally do is stuff like cervical cancer screenings, breast cancer screenings, treating women for fibroids and those kind of things like
Mm.
that. And yes, they do also provide abortion care, but that's not like their main thing. And a lot of people who
Pretty
are
sure they give out condoms.
yeah,
At least they used
they
to when I was a kid,
yeah, they do
allegedly.
that as well. Family planning, contraceptives, all that stuff. They do all that stuff there
Yeah.
at a Planned Parenthood. But because they also provide abortion care, it's kind of like nobody cares about anything else they do. It's
Right.
like this place is an abortion mill. They got to go.
They
So
do STD testing too for
yeah,
young women.
STD screenings, all that stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, they're basically a medical. They're a doctor's office essentially that also does abortion care essentially.
Right.
So yeah, but she visited one of those clinics in Minnesota. It's the first time that a sitting president or vice president has visited an abortion clinic. So people thought that it was kind of a big deal, and it just kind of goes to highlight some of the stuff that Biden and Kamala are going to be talking about during the campaign. So Trump side of things, he's said this week that if when he gets in office, if he's reelected on the first day in office, he's going to pardon all the January 6 people. So,
I saw that.
you know, there's that. Um,
Yeah,
and then
Trump is wild, man.
also,
He
yeah,
I
and
don't
then
think he
also,
wanna win. I don't think he wants to win.
um, yeah, and then also his case in New York was also delayed this week. One of his four indictments. The case was scheduled to start on March 25th, and then the federal government dropped like a shit ton of documents that were relevant to that case. And so now, because Trump has rights as a defendant, so he needs time to review them to make sure he can put up a proper defense or whatever. So the judge has delayed the trial for a month. So we'll see what happens there. But um, other than that, man, not much happening in political circles. Ken Buck, the Republican congressman from Colorado, announced that he is resigning next week. This coming Friday is going to be his last day in Congress. And some people see that as a way to screw your girl, Lauren Boebert, um, because in Colorado, in most states, you're required to live in the district that you want to represent. And so
Mhm.
Lauren Boebert represents Colorado's third district. Ken Buck represents Colorado's fourth. The third district is like very competitive. It's a swing district. So Boebert won it in 2020 or whenever she first got elected. And then when she ran for reelection in 2022, she won it again, but it had to go to a recount and she ended up winning by like 500 votes. So now she wants to run in Colorado 4 because it's like a gerrymandered Republican district. So the primary is the election. No, the Democrat's not going to win there because the Republican is favored to win there by like 15 or 16 percentage points. And in
Right.
Colorado, under their election law, as long as you live in the state, you can run anywhere. So she doesn't have to live in wherever the fourth district is. She can still live where she lives in District 3, but represent District 4. It's amazing. You represent a community you don't even live in. So,
It's like the cops,
um,
police
yeah.
community. They never lived in.
So she wants to run there. So by Ken Buck resigning his seat, because she's running in the primary right now, the governor is going to have to announce a special election. Under Colorado law, you can't run in a special election if you're already an elected member of Congress. So if she wants to run in the special, she would have to resign her current seat to run in the special, which then means if she loses the special, she's going to be out of Congress. And then if she
Oh,
loses the primary, she won't be able to be on the ballot for November. So she'd be out totally. So now it's going to put her in a position to have to make a choice. Do I stay in my seat and then try to win the primary and then I get elected in November?
yeah.
Or do I run the risk of whoever wins the special also, winning the primary and then getting the seat in November or what, you know what I mean? So she hasn't said what she's going to do. All this just happened last week. So, but she's going to have to make a choice soon.
She should just stay put.
I think so
I'm
because she's not
like,
doing well in the primary according to the polling. So,
right. Tell me again what she was before a politician.
well, she was a high school dropout who also ran a gun enthusiast, small diner where the waitresses all wear guns on their hips. And then she also was an alleged call girl on some site called sugardaddy.com or some shit like that, where some people believe
Alleged,
she has links to Senator Ted Cruz, allegedly.
alleged. But the reality was, she's a high school dropout.
Yeah,
Well,
definitely a high
that's
school
what
dropout.
yeah. Listen, don't be talking about Lauren like that. Call me Lauren. She alright, man. She
There's
alright.
nothing wrong with being a high school dropout. My mom dropped out of high school. She
That's a lot of
got
people.
herself together later, but people can do better. But it's one thing to be like, oh man, we got this congresswoman who was a high school dropout, and then she got herself together later, and then became a small business owner, and now she's smart as a whip. She's dumb as shit, and she's essentially failed forward in life, or
Yeah,
failed up, whatever that saying is. Fail forward, fail up.
yeah, yeah. I'm not mad at her.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at her. If she was ugly, I would be. Uh, shallow. Okay. Well, on that front, a little bit. I'm gonna send you the Patreon link in login that I have so that you can listen to, or at least skim through the Candace Owens Joe Budden interview. I think you would probably it's entertaining. It's long, so you probably won't make it through the whole thing. But there's some stuff. I mean, she talks some dumb shit, of course, but she talks some real shit, a little bit of real shit. Like I'll just give you two quick examples. One of the dumb things that she did, which was like really really far right wing, was Joe Budden was like, "Yo, you can't just go out there and like." You support Trump, right? And she's like, yeah. And she says, but he doesn't, you don't think there's a problem with him saying black people like me more now that I've been indicted. And she's like, well, isn't it true? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And he goes, well, his numbers went up in the polls in Fulton County after he was indicted in black men. And he goes, yeah, but the statement wasn't specific to Fulton County, right? And it didn't say black voters in Fulton County have been this. It was a generalized statement. So she was kind of fighting that, and that was one of the dumb full right wing things that she went into. Um, but I think you would appreciate some of the feminist things that she was saying that were not specific to politics. And again, a lot of the stuff she was saying was not a lot. Some of the stuff she was saying was far off crazy time shit. But I also think, and I think I told you this, I think Joe Budden, to protect himself a little bit in this community, had them clip out a lot of the wild stuff. You could see points where there was stuff clipped out. Like I think she probably went on some other crazy ass rants. But she did talk about, like the Lizzo thing, Lizzo having her ass out at the Lakers and kids being there and stuff and shit like that. She went into some other stuff about how they treat black people in some spaces. So there was some good and some bad. Um, but you know, I thought it was pretty interesting. I thought it was pretty interesting. I think you would probably critique a lot of it, but I think you would be like, "Oh, okay. This does make a little bit of sense." But the problem is when you make that little bit of sense and then you just go off of the deep end, it's like, why couldn't you just stop at that? Stop right there. You know? Like cut it. Stop all the, all the conspiracy theory shit. So, but
Yeah, I
good.
mean, so I hear what you're saying, right? And the problem for me with a person like Candace Owens is that, one, she's not that bright. She portrays herself as somebody who's, super smart, and she's on top of all the issues, and she's essentially a troll, right?
I didn't know
And
she was from Connecticut.
I didn't know that either. But Candace Owens probably lost me, back when she was, uh 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 making it seem like, Hitler wasn't such a bad guy, you know. And so, you kind of lose me at spaces like that, you know. So
Mhm.
I just I don't understand. I get why a guy like Button would platform, and it's hard to say platform because I mean she has her own platform. She has a pretty big following already, so it's not like he's giving her exposure that she couldn't get on her own. I mean she's testified before Congress. She's on Fox News all the time. She has her own podcast or whatever kind of show on I think it's like on the Daily Wire or something like that with Ben Shapiro. So she's definitely out there, but by Joe Budden bringing her on, he's definitely giving her exposure to an audience that she probably doesn't normally have exposure to.
Yep.
And my problem with like that is that even like listening to what you're saying, where it's like you listen to some of it, it's kind of is that if you don't really know who Candace Owens is already, I feel like you can listen to an interview like that and think, I mean, she does have some kind of out there ideas, but she's making some points. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so for me, I just I don't. It's not. She's somebody who shouldn't be listened to at all. Like I don't feel like she deserves people's attention because it's just too much. It's just too much nonsense with her. And like I said, she said the Hitler thing or whatever, and it's like how can you say shit like that? That it's I don't know. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, you could hear in it when they were going through stuff how she plays that card, right? Well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad if it's true, right? Like that was her whole thing she stood on with Trump. Well, it's true. After he got indicted, his numbers went up in black people. So there's truth to it. Yeah, but you don't see a problem with how that was said. You don't see how that can be perceived by by other people, right? Like dumb racist people that think he's racist, right? Like it was I could see it. I could see it. But,
Right.
you know,
And even so, let me just so I just pulled up the quote, the thing that happened with the Hitler thing, and let me give you an example. Let me just read this to you real quick to kind of to kind of get you in this in the what I'm saying about her, right? So it says it starts off. It says conservative activist Candace Owens said it would have been quote unquote okay if Hitler wanted to keep his activities to Germany while speaking to a British conference in December. This happened in 2019, by the way. Owens was responding to a question about her support for nationalism and said that it was different from Nazi Germany. And then she says, quote, if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine, unquote. She said after she was asked about the word nationalism, according to BuzzFeed News, which first reported the remarks. And then they post a video, and then it goes on where she says, quote, the problem is he had dreams outside of Germany, she continued, quote, he wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to become Germany. That's really, really wrong. And oh no, this is her responding to something. Sorry. So that's basically the end of the quote, right? Where she's essentially saying, like, if Hitler had just kept his activities to Germany, it would have been okay. Well, you know what he was doing in Germany? He was exterminating Jewish people. Yeah, that would have been fine. It was like when he went to Poland, like that was just a step too far. If you're gonna exterminate Jewish people in Germany, okay, nothing to see here. You're gonna go outside your borders. Now we gotta have a conversation, sir.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck are we talking about?
Mm. Well, I'd have to. There's a few things, right? There's a few pieces to that. Is it wrong? 100%. But I think that she's smart enough to know that there's money in that, especially for a black woman, right? You're a black woman who is basically saying, "Hey, I support Trump and the Republican Party." Your family's going to be set if the right person picks you up. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they're they're AIing black people into pictures with Trump. If you can find someone who's willing to actually stand out there on the front line and say crazy town shit like that, um, and do it, you know, they're gonna scoop her up. And I think that's what happened. I think she says stuff like that to appeal to that base to keep, her status in that area. Is it wrong? 100%. And I think, obviously it's really stupid and she's stupid for doing it. But opportunity knocks. Open,
Yeah. I mean,
open up the door.
there's definitely money to be made, you know, if you were a Candace Owens, a Jason Whitlock type,
Yes.
where you go on some kind of right wing forum and then just shit on your own people, Diamond and Silk, if you're gonna be folks like that, it's definitely money to be made. And it just kind of, it kind of, you and EJ have said this before on past pods about how people are just like, fuck the collective. I got to get mine,
Yeah.
and like there's, it kind of goes back to that saying, I don't know if it's like something from the hood or something, but I know a lot of people in our community say it where it's like, all money ain't good money, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it I don't know, man. I just I couldn't imagine myself, you know, profiteering off of shitting on my own people.
That was just a pause for that was just a pause for dramatic effect. Um, Me either. Shit, how big is that bag, dog? How big is that bag? And how much shit are we talking? Like, are we just talking like, a little pellet shit? Like, when you eat something that stops you up too much cheese? Or are we talking about like, I just ate a whole bowl of cereal and it, activated the stomach and it's diarrhea shit. You know what I mean? Like,
But
I'll
see,
give
but
him a
that's
little.
how it starts though, right? It starts off with a little bit. So, you know, maybe like I'm not sure when Jason Whitlock made the turn, but the first thing that I remember, me personally, of when he started making this turn was when remember when somebody painted the nigger on LeBron's porch
Mhm.
or on his
On his
house or something
garage.
like that?
I think it was his
Yeah.
garage, yeah. Or his
And
fence.
I remember, obviously LeBron, he said whatever he said in his statement or whatever. And I remember Whitlock like downplaying that. Like, I mean, come on, like what are we talking about here? Da, da, da. And I'm like, LeBron is a rich guy who lives in Brentwood. You think that this is really impacting him? Da, da, da. And it's like, dude, like how you know what I mean? Like you as a black man, not sure if he's married. I'm not sure if he has kids. And it doesn't matter if he does. But you not being able to empathize with a person, regardless of how much wealth they have, of them coming home to the place that is supposed to be their safety, that somebody has vandalized, that their children got to see that. You know what I mean? They got to feel like it is as much money as he has and security and all that kind of stuff. Is my family going to be safe in this place? You know what I mean? Like to not be able to empathize and make it seem like they're blowing this out of proportion, blah blah blah. And so you start at a place like that, right? And then next thing you know, a few years go by because they're gonna want more and more. Hey, these black people are saying, you know, the cops shouldn't have choked that guy to death in Minnesota, George Floyd, and it's like, yeah, you know, the guy shouldn't have had a counterfeit money. Like, what are we talking about here? You go in and with a fake $20 bill, you got to get choked to death. I mean, are we
Right.
being serious here, folks?
Right. We got to police
And so
people.
it's stuff like that where you start doing it, and it's like, oh, they paid me 10 grand for an appearance, and then now, you know, uh, you're a regular, and so you're regularly expected to say outlandish shit about your own people, and then I'm assuming that Whitlock is smart enough to understand that, or even Candace Owens for that matter, that they're using your black face to justify, their racism. To say, no, we're not being racist. Candace Owens fucks with us. You think this black woman would be messing with us like that if we were doing racist shit? You think
Yeah.
Whitlock would be fucking with us if we were doing racist shit? Like, come on, dude, what are we talking about here? Dan Bongino. He's another person. I don't know if he's black, but he's definitely a person of color. Dan Bongino is another Fox News personality, and this dude was a member in the Secret Service assigned to Barack Obama's detail when Barack Obama was president, and then he got his claim to fame by running for Senate in Maryland. And it was like, oh, I was on Barack Obama's detail. Now I'm running for Senate as a Republican, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work out for him, but he goes on Fox News and shits on Obama. And he's seen as the guy who was like, he was close to Obama because he was in Secret Service. This dude wasn't one of like the main guys. He was like one of those guys that's like keeping the crowd back or whatever because Obama's in the area kind of type dude. You might see him in the
Right.
background of a photo, that kind of joint, right? But then you take a guy like that who has sworn his life to law enforcement and got so high as to be able to be protecting the president kind of joint, right? So then when these people go out and say, yeah, they need to fuck Joe Biden up, he said, yeah, I mean, the guy's a piece of shit. It's like, well, how could we be saying anything crazy if this cop is saying the same shit?
Right.
How
Yeah.
could we be, out of pocket if this guy who swore to give his life for a president is saying that what we're saying is okay?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. 10K is not enough, by the way. That bag got to be big. It
No,
gotta be big.
that's how it starts. So you become like these contributors. So when
Dog,
I
if I
read
don't gotta
Tiffany,
work, if I don't gotta work no more, I love
like
black people. I love y'all,
when I,
but I
when I
love
read
my
Tiffany Cross's
people, but
book, she talked about like one of the first times that she appeared on MSNBC, and they were like, "Hey, we want to have you on, to talk about blah blah blah." She's like, "Okay," and then she was like, at the time, she wasn't working, and she had like just left one journalism job that wasn't like very well paid, and they wanted her to. There wasn't going to be like an on camera thing, or it wasn't gonna be like a satellite thing. They wanted her to come to New York. She was like, "Fuck, I barely got enough money to get a plane ticket. I can't even get a hotel too, So she was like, she called back and was like, I was trying to find out, like, do you guys like help with like travel? Or she sent an email. She said, like, thinking like I'm kind of like halfway asking this to see. The person's like, oh yeah, email James at this thing, She was like, she emailed James. They're like, okay, boom, here go your flight confirmation. This is your hotel stuff, boop, 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 all set. And she was like, damn. But like once you become like a paid contributor, like a Whitlock on Fox or any of these people who you see on whatever channel you watch regularly, right? Those people get paid like, contract might be 200 grand a year, and they got to make a minimum amount of appearances, but also be available if shows need them beyond that, right? Travel book. So you live in Orlando, and every now and then you're doing your stuff remote on Zoom or whatever, but they may want you in studio in DC or in studio in LA, in studio in New York. They send a car to your house, pick you up, car drive to the airport, boom. You get a ticket first class to New York. They set you up a hotel. They got a car service to pick you up from the airport, drive to the hotel to the studio back to the hotel, studio or the hotel to the airport. Food paid for. You get per diem for food and shit like that. And
Mhm.
these people get used to that shit because when you travel back home to Connecticut, I'm pretty sure it would be nicer to fly on first class versus JetBlue, right? I'm pretty
Mm.
sure you hate either finding a ride to the airport or parking at the garage and paying $19 a day for a parking fee. It's pretty nice if they send a car to your house that takes you from house to the damn airport, and then you got a first class ticket waiting for you, meals paid for, 5-star hotel. You know what I'm saying? You can get used to that shit real quick.
Yeah. Look, don't tempt me with a good time. um all right, man. That's all I got for this fine beautiful day. We're almost at the 2 hour mark. So I'm gonna hand it to you to pull us up out of here so that we can go enjoy the rest of our Sunday. You're muted. Got him.
Oh man, hey, you guys missed a hell of an outro just now.
The best one ever.
That was the best one. So, hey, we definitely appreciate everybody for rocking with us for this week's episode of the Casworthy Podcast. For the folks who listen live, we definitely appreciate your time. To one of, if not our biggest fans, at Judy, definitely appreciate you tuning in every week, and I hope you enjoy Vegas. I know that's coming up soon. You and EJ's mom. Hope you guys have a safe trip and a good time out there. To EJ, wherever he is, thanks for nothing. So,
Right.
um,
Thanks for your contribution this week.
right, exactly. The podcast can be found on all podcasting platforms by searching Casworthy. You can also follow us on these social media by searching at Casworthy. On Instagram is at Casworthy_podcast. While you're there, you can leave a like, subscribe, share, follow, tell a friend, and help us grow the audience. We very much appreciate it. And like we always say, make that phone call, send that text message. You never know what anybody's going through. Tomorrow's promised to nobody. And sometimes you might make somebody's day. And just a quick personal side note, I've talked on the podcast about my homie James. He's going through cancer treatment right now. And I hit him up on Friday, just a check-in, and it's like, hey man, I just was thinking about you. Hope you're feeling well or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going in for my first round of chemo today, and so I sent him back a message. That GIF, the one with the X-ray with the dog in it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
He'd be like, you got that, you got that dog
You
in
got
you,
that dog in you? Yeah.
And so I sent that to him, and I was like, hey, you always had that dog in you, so you're gonna get through this. And then he sent me back a message saying, like, yo, this really made me laugh. I needed a good laugh today, man. I appreciate that. So to my point, you never know what somebody's going through, how they're feeling. You know what I mean? So reach out to folks, let them know you're thinking about them. And that little thing that you say, could be the difference. You know what I mean? And to get somebody through whatever it is that they're going through. So definitely reach out to your people, man. But with that said, we will see you guys next week with a fresh episode of the Castworthy Podcast. Until then, we're out. We love you. Peace.